All right, let's dive into a world that I think we all find fascinating. Angels. We've got some really interesting material to unpack today.
Yeah, definitely.
Snippets from what looks like a video transcript, all about biblical concepts
Right.
like cherubim, seraphim, even Lucifer. But we're going way deeper than those typical images, right?
Absolutely. I think that's what makes this source so fascinating.
Yeah. Get ready to rethink some things because we're going to figure out what this source is really saying about angels and their purpose.
You know, one of the things that really stands out is how it portrays heaven as this perfectly organized system.
Okay, so like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Each type of angel has a very specific job to do.
So it's like a celestial bureaucracy. Everyone's got their own tasks.
Exactly. And those tasks are woven right into the fabric of heaven. For instance, take the cherubim.
Okay.
You see them in Genesis 3.24 depicted as guardians, right?
Yeah.
Stationed at the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
With those flaming swords.
Oh, yeah. That's an intense security detail for sure.
Right.
But it makes you think, like, what are they guarding now?
Right.
Is it still a physical place?
Yeah.
Or is it something deeper, like a principle?
That's one of the big questions this source explores, you know?
Yeah.
Is it about protecting a location
Right?
or a state of being? Or maybe what do we need to protect with that level of fierce dedication?
Interesting. It's like, what are the flaming swords in our own lives that keep us safe? What helps us resist temptation?
Exactly. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Prayer, meditation, maybe a strong support system.
Ooh, I like that. What are our flaming swords?
Yeah. What protects your Eden?
What protects my Eden?
Yeah. And this source goes even further with this idea. It brings up the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that sacred chest?
Yeah. From the Old Testament.
With those gold cherubim sculptures on it.
Oh, yeah. Exodus 25.18, I think it is. It describes them with their wings spread out over the mercy seat.
Right. Powerful image. Is all about protection, reverence. And the source asks us to consider something. What are your precious jewels? What deserves that level of care in your life, that kind of protection?
That's a big question. I mean, what do we truly value? Our relationships, our values. What do we consider sacred?
Yeah.
What needs guarding with everything we've got?
Now let's switch gears for a minute. Talk about the seraphim.
Okay.
These are the ones known for constantly praising God, right?
Okay, yeah.
Isaiah 6.3 describes them surrounding God's throne,
Right.
calling out, "Holy, holy, holy."
It's like they're setting the soundtrack for heaven.
It really is. But the source doesn't just stop there.
Okay.
It digs into their role in purification.
Purification.
Specifically, it highlights the story of the prophet Isaiah.
Okay.
In Isaiah 6.6 and 7, a seraph touches Isaiah's lips with a burning coal from God's altar
Oh, wow.
to purify him from his sins.
Intense. It's a pretty intense cleansing ritual.
It makes you think, what needs purifying in our lives?
Right.
What are those metaphorical burning coals?
Yeah. What could transform us? Help us shed those old patterns. Help us step into our full potential.
You know, and what's really striking is that even with their power, their closeness to God,
Yeah.
the seraphim are described as incredibly humble.
They're humble.
Yeah.
Wow.
They even cover their faces in God's presence.
Wow. That's powerful. So true power comes from humility.
It seems that way, right?
Yeah.
Shows us that even these high-ranking angels recognize God's supremacy.
Makes you think, how can we cultivate that humility? Especially in a world that, often celebrates ego.
It is a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
But the seraphim show us that humility isn't about diminishing ourselves.
Right.
It's about recognizing something bigger than us.
Okay. Now, what about the Watchers?
Right.
They're kind of mysterious, aren't they?
They are.
This source describes them in Daniel 4.13 as observers, recording human actions.
Yeah. Like someone's keeping tabs on us, right?
It makes you wonder if someone really is watching our every move.
It definitely adds a level of accountability to our choices, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing that someone or something is witnessing it all.
Both the good and the bad.
Exactly.
I gotta say, it makes me think a little more carefully about my actions knowing that.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to try and live with integrity.
Yeah.
Like we're always accountable.
Yeah.
Even if no one else is watching.
Speaking of accountability and choices that have consequences,
Right.
let's talk about Lucifer. This source goes deep into his fall from grace.
Yeah.
And it paints this vivid picture of his initial beauty, his privileged position, Ezekiel 28:1-17 actually describes him, the seal of perfection,
Wow.
full of wisdom and perfect in beauty.
He was considered the most radiant.
Wow. But pride, right?
Yeah.
Pride led to his downfall.
Classic story of ego gone wrong.
Isaiah 14:12 describes this desire he had to be like the most high, to replace God.
And that ambition, that thirst for power, that's what led to his rebellion.
It's a cautionary tale.
For sure.
About how pride can really corrupt even the purest heart.
Yeah, it makes you look inward. I mean, do we harbor any seeds of pride in our own lives?
It's a tough question to ask ourselves.
It is, but it's important.
Pride can manifest in such subtle ways, even in our good deeds.
Yeah.
It's essential to examine our motives.
Right.
Are we seeking glory for ourselves?
Right.
Or are we acting from a place of genuine love?
And like with Lucifer, it's not just about the individual.
Right.
Pride affects others.
Exactly.
Revelation 12:4 describes how a third of the angels were pulled down with him.
Wow. A lot of collateral damage.
A lot. So our choices have a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. It's about influencing others for the better, not just our own salvation.
So it's like a cosmic butterfly effect.
Yeah.
One little act of pride
It can
set off this chain reaction.
It can, yeah. Unintended consequences. Exactly. So humility, self-awareness, they're crucial.
They are essential.
Because our actions impact everyone around us.
Absolutely.
Now let's move to something a little more comforting.
Okay.
Angels as messengers and protectors in the world today.
This is where things get really personal.
Right.
It reminds us that angels aren't just these figures from old scriptures.
Right.
They're actively engaged with us.
So it's like a divine support system.
Yeah. Think about Gabriel.
Okay.
Announcing Jesus' birth in Luke 1.2638.
Yeah, talk about a high-profile assignment.
That's a big one. And the source makes us think, have we had any unexplainable experiences?
Oh, like what?
Moments of deliverance, guidance. Could it be angelic intervention?
Like, have you ever felt protected or gotten help when you least expected it?
Right.
I've definitely had those lucky breaks where things just seem to fall into place.
Makes you wonder.
It does. And then there's Psalm 91:11. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways.
That's a powerful image, having this unseen army looking after you.
It is. It's comforting. But what I find really fascinating is that, remember Hebrews 13:2, about entertaining angels without knowing it.
Oh, right.
Could that friendly stranger or that random act of kindness, could that have been an angel?
It's a powerful thought. Like, we're supposed to look for that spark of the divine in everyone we meet. Be open to the possibility that even the ordinary could be extraordinary.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, this ordinary encounters, the ones that could be so much more, it's pretty mind-blowing to think we could have met an angel and had no idea.
It really makes you look at things differently, doesn't it? Like,
Right.
What other ways is the divine working in our lives?
Right.
But speaking of hidden depths, let's go back to the cherubim for a second.
Okay.
This source seems to challenge that common idea of them, as these cute, harmless figures.
Oh, yeah. They're always depicted as these, like, adorable little babies with wings.
Yeah.
But this source says, no. They're powerful.
Exactly.
Powerful.
Intimidating, even.
Remember, they're guarding God's presence.
Right.
At the Ark of the Covenant.
Not the kind of cherub you want to mess with.
Not at all. It really makes you think about what they symbolize, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That fierce protection of what's sacred.
It's like, what are our personal arcs? What are those sacred moments?
What do we need to protect?
Those connections with God that deserve that same level of fierce dedication.
It makes you think about what you hold dear.
It does. What needs protecting? What are my Edens?
What are Edens?
And what flaming swords do I need to keep them safe?
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of powerful protectors, this source also talks about warrior angels.
Oh, yeah, the heavenly armies. Fighting for us.
These invisible soldiers. And the source really focuses on Michael.
The archangel. Depicted as this powerful warrior. Revelation 12:7-9 describes him leading the angelic armies against, Satan. Talk about an epic showdown.
It doesn't get much bigger than that.
And Daniel 12:1 names Michael as the protector of God's people. So yeah, he's a force to be reckoned with.
He is.
It's like there's this whole invisible war going on around us. And this source says that this war in heaven symbolizes the struggle between good and evil. Like on a cosmic level, but also within ourselves.
That's interesting. So we're all in this cosmic battle.
It seems like it. Our choices, our actions, they all have an impact.
Wow.
Which reminds me of Ephesians 6.1-2. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places.
Yeah, there's definitely more going on than we realize.
So we've got backup, these warrior angels fighting alongside us. But it makes me wonder, do angels have free will? I mean, they're often shown as perfect, obedient beings, but this source makes me think maybe not.
It is a big question. And the source uses Lucifer's fall to show that, yeah, they do have choices.
Yeah.
Ezekiel 28.15 actually says he was perfect until iniquity was found in him.
So even in heaven, you can choose a different path, turn away from the light.
It seems that way.
It's kind of unsettling.
It is, yeah. It makes you question everything.
Right. Like, if angels can choose, are WE being evaluated too?
Evaluated.
Yeah, for our loyalty, our character. You know, like how those angels chose to follow Lucifer.
Oh, you're right. It's like, are we being watched, not just for what we do, but what's in our hearts?
Makes you think about the weight of our choices. Are we aligning ourselves with the good or the bad?
That's the question, isn't it? What are we putting out into the world?
Let's talk about the fallen angels then, the ones who went with Lucifer.
Okay.
The source doesn't hold back on their fate. Hebrews 2.1 talks about their eternal condemnation. No coming back from that.
It seems like they made their choice. They knew the consequences. I mean, they were with God and still chose to rebel.
It makes it even more tragic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
To know the ultimate good and still reject it. But it also begs the question, if angels who were created perfect could fall, what about us?
That's the question that keeps me up at night. What's stopping us from making the same mistakes?
But the source does offer a little hope, I think. It emphasizes God's grace even when we mess up.
So there's still a chance.
We can choose a different path, even after we stray.
That's good to know.
But it's not a guarantee. We can't take God's grace for granted, right?
Absolutely not. It's a constant choice, aligning ourselves with His will.
It's like walking a tightrope, isn't it? We're not perfect, but we have to try.
We do.
But how do we even know if we've encountered an angel? They're not going to show up with halos and wings, right?
I don't think so.
So how do we recognize them?
Well, the source mentions Hebrews 13.2 again.
Yeah.
The verse about entertaining angels without realizing it.
Oh, right.
So it could be anyone. A stranger,
Yeah.
your neighbor, that coworker who gives unexpectedly good advice.
So we have to be open to the possibility. Look for those hints of the divine.
Exactly. The source gives examples. Help arriving just when you need it. Advice that steers you in the right direction. That feeling of peace in a tough situation. Have you ever felt something like that?
I think we all have. Those moments where something just shifts, you know? You feel guided.
Protected.
Yeah. But how can we be more intentional about recognizing those encounters?
The source says, start your day with a prayer for discernment. Ask God to show you His presence. Help you see how He works through others.
What else?
It also mentions keeping a spiritual journal. Write down those moments that feel significant, the synchronicities, those blessings that seem to come from nowhere.
It's like creating a trail of those breadcrumbs of grace.
It is.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. This source mentions the tongue of angels.
Oh, yes. 1 Corinthians 13.1.
What do you think that means?
It's a phrase that has sparked so much debate. What's your take?
I always thought it was some kind of, I don't know, telepathy, like a direct connection to the divine. But this source makes it sound like it's more than just words.
Right. It's more about the way angels communicate God's message, not literally, but through actions, feelings, like the essence of their being. It's a communication that bypasses all the noise, all the distractions, and speaks right to your soul.
So it's not about learning some secret language. It's about being attuned to those deeper levels, those whispers of intuition that lead us toward what's good for us.
Exactly. It's like how God speaks to us. It's not always with words, is it?
Sometimes it's a feeling.
A knowing.
Or even just silence.
Yes. That deep, meaningful silence, those quiet moments where we feel closest to something bigger. Maybe that's the closest we get to understanding the tongue of angels.
I like that. And this source also says that however angels communicate, it always comes from love.
It has to, right?
I mean, love is universal. It speaks to everyone.
It transcends all the barriers, goes straight to the heart.
And that brings us to the final point. Angels as mirrors of God.
Ah, yes. A powerful image.
Powerful. So how do they reflect His nature?
The source talks about several attributes. First, holiness. The seraphim embody that. with their constant praise. It's that sense of awe and reverence we feel in the presence of the divine.
That feeling of being completely humbled by something so much greater than ourselves.
Exactly. Then there's order
Yeah.
and care.
Yeah.
We see that in how the angels are organized, their specific roles. Remember how we talked about them being like celestial bureaucrats?
Oh, yeah. Like a well-oiled machine, everybody doing their part.
And don't forget justice.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Michael fighting for what's right, even when it's hard.
And love.
Oh, right, right. Angels protecting and guiding us. It's comforting, knowing we're not alone, that there's something out there looking out for us.
It is. And lastly, there's closeness. The idea that God is present with us through his angels.
So they're like a bridge.
Yes, bridging the gap between the earthly and the divine. It's like a direct connection to heaven, even if we don't realize it.
It's incredible when you think about it. All these parts of God's nature reflected in these beings. It makes the whole idea of angels much more real somehow.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to process. It makes you realize we're part of something much bigger, this whole cosmic drama,
And that even in the everyday, those small moments, something extraordinary could be happening. Who knows? Maybe we've already had an angelic encounter and didn't even realize it.
It's possible.
Right.
Think about it. All those times you felt that sudden calm in the middle of a crazy situation, or got help from out of the blue.
Yeah. Makes you rethink those coincidences or those lucky breaks.
Right, maybe they're not so random after all.
So where does this all leave us? What have we learned from this deep dive?
For me, the biggest thing is angels aren't just these distant beings in some old book.
Yeah.
They're actually involved in God's plan, working to guide and protect us.
Like a divine support system.
Yeah.
Always there, even when we don't see it.
Exactly. And they show us so much about God himself, his holiness, his order, his justice, his love,
Yeah.
and how close he is to us.
I love that idea of angels being mirrors of God, reflecting those different sides of him. It just makes them seem more real.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you want to look for those qualities, not just up in heaven, but here in ourselves.
Right. And in the world.
Yeah.
So maybe understanding angels isn't just about this other realm, but understanding our own place.
In the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. We're all part of something so much bigger. This tapestry with all its threads, seen and unseen. And even when things feel ordinary, something incredible could be at work, guiding us, protecting us, reminding us we're never really alone.
This whole deep dive, it's left me feeling a sense of wonder. Like, what else is out there? I don't know about you, but I'm going to be looking for those signs now. Those little nudges, those moments of grace.
Yeah, me too. Who knows? Maybe we'll have another angelic encounter soon. Thanks for joining us for this look into the world of angels. Hopefully it's inspired you to keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and be open to the mysteries that are all around us. You never know what you might find.